Good morning, and welcome to the Energy Perspectives Group webinar hosted by Power Metallic Mines. This event is being recorded. During the presentation, all participants will be muted. If you have any questions you would like to ask, please type them into the chat feature. We will read and answer questions at the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now here is Dan Steffens, who will introduce today's speaker.
Yeah, welcome to today's webinar. It's being hosted by Power Metallic Mines, an exploration company based in Canada that explores for nickel, copper, cobalt, platinum, palladium, gold, and silver deposits. Its flagship project is the NISK property located in Quebec, Canada. NISK is a world-class polymetallic discovery which contains at least 5 metals that are in demand for what I call the electrification of everything, including batteries and AI infrastructure. Joining me today is Terry Lynch, the company's president and CEO, and Duncan Roy, the VP of Investor Relations. Terry's going to give the presentation today, but Terry joined me on a webinar on April the 9th to tell us about the NISK discovery. He is back today to give us an update on the project. We are also going to discuss why the stage is set for a multi-year run in the price of commodities, thanks to the rapidly increasing demand for energy, especially electricity, which you've all heard about, when I talk about the AI data centers and all, but can you imagine how much copper is going to be needed for those giant AI data centers? Just the copper wire is incredible. So Terry graduated in 1981 from St. Francis Xavier University, from which he received joint honors degrees in economics and business administration. From 2005 to 2008, he was a partner at Kings Mill Capital Partners, a financial advisory firm specializing in advising public and private early stage growth companies. He has decades of experience in mining, industrial products, oil and gas, and media. So during the webinar, if you have any questions, please type them into the chat box and we will answer them after the presentation. With that, I will now turn it over to Terry Lynch for an update on Power Metallic Mines. Go ahead,
Dan,
Terry.
thanks so much for having us again. Great to be back and happy to give you an update. So I've a small slide deck, probably might be beneficial just to run through that quickly, and then we can sort of chat as we go through it. So this is what the property sort of looks like if you're looking in a drone, looking west, and that's sort of the area where our core shacks and stuff like that are. So you can see it's quite developed, and that's one of the real benefits of our project is it's in a very easily accessible, well logistically contained area, and that's a real plus. So let's see. Not going to tell you anything we don't believe is true, but we standard disclaimer and recommend you read it and review it. Where are we at right now? A quick snapshot. Well, we've been very blessed to have some amazing investors come into Power Metallic. Robert Friedland and Rob McEwen have led our last 2 rounds. Rob's been in for 3 actually. Gina Reinhardt bought in the market and sort of drove the stock from 40 to 70 cents and allowed our first big financing with Friedland. So and we've got something, last count, 15 billionaires in the deal, all sort of got one by one, often in meetings with around lunch tables and around America, Europe and Canada, and Australia, and just meeting people, and getting them, into the knowledge of what the program is. Generally, what drove everything for us has been the drill bit, right? At the end of the day, any successful mining company will rise or fail based upon the success of the drill bit. So our discovery of a very high grade copper PGE project transformed our simple nickel sulfide project into what became an orthomagmatic nickel copper PGE play. And those are super rare, maybe like 20 in the world, and all of the previous ones have become major mines, i.e. at least 1 million tons of contained metals, and some super majors more than 10 million tons. So that's what prompted the excitement. That's what has allowed us to become fully funded. We raised 50 million at the end of February and fully cashed up. We're in the midst of a 100,000 meter drill program. We've got about 20,000 meters or so in the box right now, waiting on assays. Honestly, the assays have been delayed. We had hoped to get some out for sure this week. But we'll get something out from, I believe, Monday. Even just a few holes, even, but it's just been like the backdrop at the assay labs has been, moved sort of from 5 to 7 weeks to like 10 to 12 weeks, and there's not much we can do about that. But we'll walk you through this and walk you to where we're at inside Quebec. Before we do that, just a quick snapshot of what the company overview is. About 220 million shares outstanding. The big takeaway here is the top 8 shareholders own almost half. And what's more important is they've been investing over the last 2 years. So the biggest investor over the last 2 years, I guess, well, now it's Friedland, but before that it was me. So me and my family. So the people that know it best are writing bigger checks as it goes, because we continue to believe in the asymmetric upside of this story, and I think that's often comforting for investors to know that there's such a buy-in from the previously big shareholders. Occasionally, this is a map of Quebec. You can see the province on the right box and where we're at within that black box, and that black box is what's on the screen. So we're just a little bit south and east of James Bay, we're very blessed to be off the road. I mean, one of the great things you like about Quebec is infrastructure is largely there. So we've got roads and hydro right to the site. We're across the road from a Hydro-Quebec substation. All that stuff is easily accessible for us. We're about 8 kilometers outside the town of Namaska, which has got accommodation and food for our crew, and cutting labs and that sort of thing. It's also the home of the James Bay Cree, and one of the things that Quebec's done a really great job of is working with the First Nations to help them understand how mining development can be beneficial to their community, and how they can have a lot more high-paying jobs close to home that respects the environment. And the James Bay Cree are we've been blessed. We've got a great working relationship with them. They're super phenomenal people to work with, and they're very pro mining. The other thing that we like to tell people about Quebec and why we consider it the best jurisdiction in the world to be looking for critical minerals is the phenomenal fiscal incentives. So we've been pretty much able to raise 2-for-1 exploration dollars. So our investors will put up $1 and it'll become $2 because of the government packages that are in place, both federally and provincially. And as an example, in the last round, our investors bought at $1.45 a share, and the company received on average over $2.50. So on the 80% of it that was flow through was 1.95 multiple, and then on the direct investment was just 1-to-1. But we're able to really leverage it, and depending on different times of the cycle, you can get in excess of 2 times your investment dollar, which is great for a number of reasons. One, obviously, it de-risks it for the current stage of investor, but it also is less dilution for the existing investor. So it's a big win-win. That's for exploration. The other point I would make is that these benefits also exist for development. So if it costs $500 million to build, half of that would come in the way of tax credits from the federal government and the provincial government. So it's really sort of a significant incentive to find these projects in Quebec and develop them there. Let's talk about the good stuff, the minerals in the ground. So it started out as a simple nickel sulfide. You can see on the left-hand side, that's what we call NISC main. It was we bought it was 3.1 million tons historical resource of about 1.5% nickel EQ, about 1% nickel, about 0.5% copper, and about 1 gram of PGEs. Fairly traditional, I would say. And that's an MRE of 7.1. I think it was probably something around 8.5 or so now is our internal calculation. So we were looking for nickel sulfides and focusing on nickel. In looking for that, the average drill hole here was about 400 meters, and some of them went longer. And so about 2 years ago, we were left with 200 meters in our drill budget. And at the time we were financing, I would put up $500,000, myself and my family. My peers and friends would put up $500,000, and then we'd do the 2-for-1. So we get $2 million from the overall, the government package to put in. So for every dollar I would put in, we get 4. So that was the way we were bootstrapping the growth. Now, as it turns out, we had about 200 meters left in the drill budget. The average drill hole was 400 meters. And so our team came to me and said, "Hey, Terry, do you want to, throw in another the amount of cash to drill another 400-meter hole here at NISC. And I'm like, I don't want to throw it in directly. I'm happy to put more money in the company, but I want to get $1 becoming 4. So I said, do we have anything productive we could do with 200 meters? And they said, well, we've got this, lookalike, we think, to NISC up in the northeast corner here, and we'd like to drill that. We think that's a good use, and it would make sense. So I said, we fully expecting we'll have another nickel sulfide they often run in strings and pearls. So we drilled it, and by God, we got lucky as hell. I mean, thank you, God. I mean, really, we hit the jackpot. This Lion Zone was amazingly rich in copper and PGEs. And you can see we pulled out 5 of our top holes spread across the intersection. It's about 400 meters wide by 500 meters vertically deep. Some of the holes have been longer, but and top, that's sort of the vertical depth of it. And you can see it's like 21 meters of almost 8% copper equivalent, and that was done at 950 PGE prices, which have obviously gone up a lot since then. So it's definitely super high grade material, and this was sort of a shot heard around the world. So that transformed our understanding of the project. It also transformed our positioning. So when we went out and raised the 50 million, these 2 slides were sort of how we raised it. We basically said, hey, look at us relative to our peers. Adriatic is probably a great one to look at. They just sold, I think it's closing today, maybe for $1.5 billion. They had $500 rock, $500 a ton. That's basically what we'll have, and very similar size. So we think that as a result, there's significant upside in what we've already found, and the big plus is there's probably a lot more to find. So this slide is sort of more about, hey, what is the asymmetric upside stuff that you're not paying for but potentially could get? So in this slide, this is a slide created by Steve Beresford, our thought leader on the geological side. Steve was formerly chief geologist at First Quantum, then at MMG, and then at IGO. He was chief scientific officer. So 3 successive multi-billion-dollar polymetallic companies. So Steve, if he's not the top polymetallic scientist in the world, he's certainly in that conversation. And he's only looking for orthomagmatic nickel, copper, PG deposits. So when I reached out to him on this, we started to have a conversation. Eventually, obviously, he got involved and became a member. But this slide here is sort of the 20 deposits on Earth that are like this. And as I said, all of them are either majors, 1 million tons, or super majors, more than 10. Oktyabrsky, which is right in the middle here, that is the heart of Norilsk. Norilsk is literally the world's greatest mine. So all these orthomagmatic mines are the world's most profitable mines. They're just so super profitable to operate. So the grades are high, and the value per ton is high. So that's what makes them profitable. And of course, spread across a variety of minerals. So there's natural hedging built in. So the one interesting observation that Steve made to us is that for every ton of copper sulfide you find in these nickel orthomagmatic deposits, you find 5 tons on average of nickel. So right now at Lion, we're probably about a 1.5 to 1, growing to 2 to 1, copper to nickel. So what does that mean? Well, in addition to finding a lot more copper, we're also going to find a lot more nickel. Steve says to visualize our hand. If you can think of the palm of your hand as this was the nickel sulfide, that was the sort of the mother of the deposit, and some hydrothermal action happened, came by, swept up the copper sulfides to the surface. It precipitated down in these chutes, like the Lion Zone, became very rich and kept on pulsing until the energy died, and that's what concentrated the grades at such a high level. And Steve says the key to a successful polymetallic exploration is finding these fingers that have these high grade mineral zones and tracing them down to the ultimately what's underneath. Now, again, we haven't found the big body underneath. We think NISC main is sort of on the side of the deposit. We don't think that's the mother of this zone. We think we still have to find it. We've got some ideas of where it's at, and we're working towards finding that. But when we find it, we think there's going to be a massive size. So that, and the beautiful thing is, as an investor right now, you're not paying for that. That's all sort of asymmetric upside that you're going to get if we're able to find it. And of course, we've got $50 million to do that. So this is sort of a good visualization of where we're at now. NISC, our 43-101, There's a research report out from Hannon and Partners, a very reputable investment bank in London, talking about us having 9.4 million tons of 7% copper equivalent. So call us 16.5 million tons. Sakatti, the core of it was 40.9 million tons. It's actually been upgraded now to over 150, but lower grade. But I mean, we certainly saw getting to the Sakatti size. Will we get to Voisey's Bay? Well, time will tell. But the great part again is you're not paying for it, so that's all good for you on the upside. Dan mentioned this off the top. Is there time for a rotation into commodities? Are we going to start to see a big move from people moving their money out of the tech world into commodities? I think you're going to see a significant change, and it wouldn't take a lot. Back in the day, on the New York Stock Exchange, mining was about 10%. Today, it's less than 1%. So even if you had doubled it, went to 2%, this would be a mammoth cash inflow into the select names. And where's it going to go? It's going to go into quality names. So I think there's very likely to be a sector rotation here, and there's not a ton of high quality companies. And when that money starts to roll in, look out, man! This thing is going to really peak. And you can see, you can go from up to the peak. That there's going to be 10 baggers and 100 baggers and even 1,000 baggers, which sounds crazy, but it will happen in the cycle. That's why I think we were able to raise the money, is that people are sort of looked at it and say, hey, they're cheap relative to their peers. They're basically got asymmetric upside on the exploration, and they're now fully funded. So I think that's what led us to getting the money. And of course, they trusted the team we put together. So in mining, I would say in the junior side, you need to be able to tell the story and raise the money in an efficient way that's protective of the shareholders' dilution. That's my job and the job of the board. And then the exploration team is really Joe Campbell and Steve and the people that are underneath them. And these guys are top of their profession, right? They're both ex-Western Mining trained guys. Joe runs one of the biggest geological consulting practices in Canada, and they basically work for us in a big way. And by doing that, there are a couple benefits. One, we're able to scale much more quickly than if we had to just hire people. And they also were able to get 100% deductibility versus if they're internal, it's 70%. So there's been some tax strategy and planning on how to make that happen. But the team has done an amazing job of sort of following up on our initial success and making it grow. So what are we doing with all this money? Well, we're doing it. We're really sort of going at it in a big boy way. We've done some pretty significant investment in geological and geophysical surveys, and also in using a technique called borehole EM. So when we drill a hole, basically it's a 6 diameter hole, but at the end of the hole, what we do is we run this tool through it, and this tool basically turns that hole into 150 meters radius and allows us to see sulfide bodies within that parameter. So sometimes, depending on the makeup of the geology you're working in, that can be challenging, leading to a lot of false positives. But so far in this area, we've not had false positives. So we've been very, very effective, technique to advance our discovery. And so we sort of figured out a bit of a recipe for what's working in this area. And one of the things we realized is that we didn't have enough land. We obviously are quite stoked with working Nisk and Lion and advancing that forward, but we felt that hey, there's a lot more opportunities up here than just this, and quite often this happens in areas. So Sudbury, an example, one of the great geological places on Earth, 33 mines have produced more than 10 million tons of contained metal. So our feeling is this will be a district. So we thought, hey, if we're going to be a district, we don't have nearly enough land. So we went out and we made a big acquisition this summer, or probably our biggest move, the most positive move this summer, was to acquire the lift ground. So the lift ground almost 3.5 times our land package. And you can see a bit more detail here. So the black square was our existing packages, and then the blue squares are basically the stuff we've added on. So we're already working on the exploration on that. We identified through this exercise 8 sort of super targets, and we own 7 of them now. So we're really sort of cranking on that exploration on those targets using all of our techniques. One of the key questions that we get, from investors as we, tour the globe and bring them up to speed with the project is we get questions about metallurgy. And whenever you have a polymetallic, or really any mine, it's one of the first questions you as investors should ask. And because it's one thing to discover an ore body, it's another thing to harvest it properly and in an economic way. So the mineralogy of that is very, very important. So we've been going through a fairly serious mineralogy process. It's 3 steps. We'll finish with a final metallurgical study that we potentially could have by the end of the year, but most likely in early Q1. And generally, we reported back maybe I think 3 or 4 weeks ago that the first phase had been done very successfully. Again, what we had felt when we, with a high grade polymetallic like this, that the mineralogy would be very positive. And we basically looked at it at a cellular level, like 100 different parts of the deposit, and looking under a microscope to sort of see where the minerals would report to. So generally, we reported back that overwhelmingly more than 90% of it's going to report to the copper concentrate. That's what you want to hear. The analogy for this deposit from a mineral style perspective would be the Sudbury footwall deposits, which were high copper, high PGE, and they process very well metallurgically. So there has been challenges in the past, like Chalice, which is one of our comparables in Australia, has had some issues that they're working their way through, but it's a lower grade system. So generally, the higher grade systems tended to do well. When I asked Robert Friedland before he invested, I said, "What do you think about the metallurgy here?" He said, "Look, I've got a lower grade system in Platte Reef in Ivanhoe, and he says it's getting high 80s, low 90s. So he says, I'm sure you're going to get there." He said, I think your rock looks really good. So obviously he invested and put his money where his mouth is. So I think metallurgy is going to be fine. Right now, we're carrying 80%. So there's some upside to us in getting higher than that. I think that's what will happen, but let's leave it unfold. But it looks very promising at this stage. So wrapping up before we jump to questions, Dan, what will be the drivers of valuation in the stock? Well, at some point we hope for a re-rating because we think we're radically undervalued relative to our what we've already discovered. Probably what'll lead to it is the more exploration and more assays. So as I said, it's been a bit slow with the labs, much slower than we'd like, but we will start getting that information out. We hope to get it out this week, but we're going to get a small one out at least next week. And then what we'll see as over the next 18 months is every 3 or 4 weeks we'd expect to have more assays coming out showing resource expansion. So at the end of the day, the more resources we prove up in the ground, that should drive valuation. At some point, we should get a re-rate, and then we're also growing. So it'll be a double whammy. What's going to also drive valuation, I think, is we're always mopping up and adding more land. We think this is going to be a district play, so you'll start to see some more results from other parts of our land package. I think that's going to be exciting. We've talked openly about talking to new exchanges like New York and Australia. For sure, I think New York is first up. We're working on that right now with our team, and would expect to get there in Q3. So Q3 and maybe early Q4. Yeah, probably could blend into October at the moment, but it's going to be imminent, I think. Other things that'll be coming that will drive valuations or things that investors should watch for is the MET studies. When that comes out, I think that'll be a very big positive. The spin-off that we did with Chilean Metals, we're in the process of listing that on the TSXV. That's coming along nicely. Should happen in September. That's looking good. We've also been working on with CVMR on developing a nickel powder facility. At this point, it'll probably be in Texas. It would ultimately use the nickel from NISC, and it would make nickel powder, which is essential for 3 things: electric vehicles, defense, which is basically missiles, bullets, frigates, etc., and then 3D printing. So the big point to make here is it's been fully funded by CVMR. It's about a $7.5 million project. We're about $7 million into it. So that should come out, we think, this fall. I'm actually going to Korea with the CVMR team for the third visit with the Korean Battery Metals Complex on advancing this to really sort of a go no go decision on this project. So it's going quite nicely. So that's happening. So there'll be some news coming on that. And then the final thing is we announced back in the summer that we had been awarded the Jebel al Badwan project in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And people I think were surprised by that. We were one of the first juniors to win a bid there. It was interesting. I'm going to Beaver Creek in about 10 days. Actually, it's even quicker. Maybe I'm leaving on Sunday. And Beaver Creek's the big mining conference of the year, I would say. And we've got 60 potential meetings. We've got fully booked for 60. When I was there 2 years ago, we met the Saudis, the representatives, and they were interested because we had just discovered the line zone, but it was early days and hadn't really advanced. We made the initial discovery hole. They liked what we were doing. They said, "Hey, you should come to Saudi. We're doing great things down there." It's geologically speaking, Saudi Arabia is probably the last great unexplored geological package on Earth that's not really had serious exploration. And it's been described as Abitibi, which is a very high profile, super rich area in Canada that's led to many, many great mines. And it was described as Abitibi in the 1940s with modern technology. So pretty exciting from a geological sort of perspective. But what was more exciting is when we came back to Beaver Creek last year, and we obviously had the success of the line zone, we met the kingdom again, and they said, "Look, really love what you guys are doing. We want explorers down here, not like guys that want land packages. We want people that actually know how to advance exploration in a productive, scientific way. So if you come down here and apply for a land package and you win, it's a fully transparent process based on your technical approach. We'll introduce you to the top 5 Saudi family offices." So it's like they did. So from 50 billion to 110 billion. So it's like, how else is a small Canadian junior going to meet these types of financial heavyweights? And of course, they would be the ones that would basically partner with us and advance our subsidiary called Power Metallic Arabia to explore in the kingdom. So this is, you would buy us based on NISC and what we're doing there. But seedlings like, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and even the CVMR, there's some very bright seedlings in our plantation that I think will ultimately grow and lead a lot of valuation for our shareholders. So it's a pretty exciting package. We're pretty stoked. We're a little frustrated about the assays being slow, and we're chomping at the bit to get our news out there, but it'll come. And stocks sort of sold off after the financing, as they often do, especially in Canada over the summertime. But then usually it comes, if you look at our pattern after we come into the summer and we start to get into conference season, the stock and news season, stock certainly has been strong. So we think we're coming into our prime season, and it's a hell of a great time to be as an investor looking at Power Metallic. So I'll stop there and look to answer any questions you have, Dan, or the audience may have.
Okay. One thing I want to mention, before we went live, Terry and I were talking, and I mentioned to them that I get all the Garrigan Rosenzweig, quarterly reports and their stuff, and how, and I saw a podcast by Adam Rosenzweig, and he was saying that they really believe the stage is set for a rotation of money into, hard assets, into oil and gas and metals and stuff like that. And I agree with him. As I've said in my newsletters, and based on my valuations, some of these companies are trading at ridiculously low prices. And I just think that, you look at it, and Terry, you can comment on this. I look at a lot of this stuff coming out about AI data centers and how they're going to need all this electricity. Well, what's the amount of copper that goes into these AI data centers? It's got to be massive, right?
It's massive. It really is massive. Basically, I think we're going to need all forms of energy, right? We're going to need oil and gas. We're going to need uranium. You can see Microsoft doing deals on 3 Mile Island. Whoever thought that was coming back, So there's a lot of interesting stuff, going on, and I think it's it's pretty pretty obvious that world's going to lead a lot of materials, and that's why you're seeing presidents like President Trump and Prime Minister Carney, world leaders that never talked about mining ever are now talking about strategic metal deals, and governments are funding, and we've seen the U.S. made major moves in that area. Canada's talking about doing the same thing, the EU. So clearly, the people have realized that China's had the jump on people. They've gotten their Belt and Road Initiative has enabled them to move very swiftly and to tie up a lot of natural resources that are going to be critical for supporting their economy. So the West is going to wake up, and I think that's promising.
Yeah, I mean, I got a call the other day from one of our, longtime members, and he said, "When are they going to actually start building these AI data centers? And when are you guys start doing this?" I said, "They're already doing it. They're building
Yeah.
massive projects right now. There's one called what is it, Stargate, that's out in West Texas, and I just heard about it. I didn't even know. And then I saw a video on it. Hell, we're got everything's getting built already. It's going to be open pretty soon. Anyway, interesting. I'll get some of the questions here that came
Okay.
in, and I think you answered a few of these things. But one says, with more rigs running, when can we expect more frequent core releases? So you're saying like next week, even?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we've been pounding the table trying to get them to jam it, but I mean, everyone's sort of equally anxious. So it's like, while we're a great customer, we're not the only one, and everyone is screaming for their assays. So, that's a bit of a bottleneck right now. I mean, we had been for, I guess, 2 years running sort of 5 to 7 weeks, but as I said, it's just gotten longer, and we didn't really realize it was going to stretch that long, but here we are. And but yeah, and I guess the good news is we're well into the queue. We're probably 20,000 meters or so into the queue. So when it starts coming out, then like next week, then every 2 or 3 or 4 weeks it'll start to come out. So the long wait is almost over.
Well, like, let's say you go to that conference in Beaver Creek and somebody's really interested in. I mean, what would they like somebody just come in and buy the Lion area, buy the Lion project from you or something, or try to
You
work
know
out a
what?
deal
I
on just
mean,
that one mine?
we've had people that expressed interest to do that, but it's early days, both for us and for them. Really,
Okay.
the logical next steps. The big questions, people have is how big is it going to be? That's the big question, and that's what we got the 50 million for, was to answer that question. Was to like, now will we get to the end of it there? I don't know. We'll see, but we're definitely going to be able to give the market a very good idea how big this is going to be, and it's like, because it's the orthomagmatic, and historically they've all been 1 million tons of contained metals or more, and so as we move to that level and beyond, then things get exciting.
Mm.
Typically, these things get acquired at some point by majors. That's likely to be the scenario here. Although the one thing I will say, these are the world's most profitable mines to operate. Okay, so,
Mhm.
there's only 20 of them, so it's not like you want to give up on this thing early. So it's like, we'll never build it because we don't have that capacity ourselves, but we could joint venture it. Where we partner with somebody, and because that's going to be the way to get our shareholders the most juice. And that's how we're thinking about it. Is that if somebody makes us some overwhelmingly asymmetric offer and wants to take us out, well, of course, we're acting for our shareholders, and as a big shareholder, we'll have to look at that. But we're also believers in this economic package, and we're believers in the funding that sources that are available to develop this, and also that it could be done as a JV. So we'll see. The more rocks we find, and the more grade, the more attractive our opportunities will be.
Now, are these going to be open pit mines, or is it
So
underground?
to the most part, this will be underground, so declines. So think of it almost like a river of this sulfide body. At the top it's copper and platinum, palladium, gold, silver, and as it moves down into the depths, it transitions into a more nickel-y material.
Okay.
Is
Okay, I
our
see.
understanding. So to the most part, it would be a very small open area at the top, and then it would be a decline drilling this.
Okay, so it's
river,
kind of like a ramp, like the tunnel's like a
ramp.
ramp
Yeah.
down, and it's like, so your drilling
And,
program.
and you're basically, we're pretty much.
Go ahead. Did I lose you there? Terry, we're not getting the audio. Okay. Yeah, Terry, we're not hearing you. I checked to make sure your audio's on. Ding, ding, ding. Right. Sabrina, can you hear him? Or is it just, is it? No. Oh,
No, I'm not able. He dropped off. He's probably
Uh-oh.
going to get right back on.
Okay. So how do we do that?
He'll get back on.
Okay.
It's been
People hear
cutting.
us now? Oh, go ahead.
They've put me back on a number of times already.
Okay. Do you want to try to answer some of these questions, Duncan?
Sure, why not?
Okay. Oh, I don't even have the question. Okay. One thing, what's the metal? Is it nickel and copper are going to be the main drivers of the project?
It'll be all three groups really. At this point, we've got NIST main that's essentially nickel. We have Lion, Tiger. Those right now are heavily skewed to copper, and then the PGEs, the gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and that's where we sit right now. We're going to keep working through the depths and widths at these hydrothermic events, and expect those still to be heavily on the copper and PGE groups.
Hey, Terry, you need to unmute. I think. Oh,
Yeah.
there we go.
Hi guys.
Okay. We
Yeah.
lost you there, but anyway.
Yeah. Got a sort of electrical output here, but I joined back on my cell phone. So
Okay.
luckily we got through the presentation, so I can.
Yeah, we're still live. We're still live, so they hear us.
Cool.
Okay. Let me get some questions. I got some emailed to me yesterday, and someone says it's with a rumored amount of some very wealthy investors in it. Is it appropriate for me to ask what are the sides for the scope of the project? And I think you covered some of that, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, again, historical analogies would be, we think 1 million tons of contained metal, and in the extreme case, more than 10 million tons.
Wow.
So all those are definitely on the table. We certainly believe in our core to our that we're going to get to the 1 million tons, and in excess of that. Can we get to the 10 million tons? I mean, obviously that would be a very, very big deal, and the good news is it's possible. But that we need more luck from the big guy, and more drilling. But yeah, I mean that's exciting. What's exciting about mining is that you can, the cool part, and this is why this particular cycle is so attractive, Dan, is that many companies, including Power Metallic, even though we were the top performing mining stock in Canada last year, we're still super undervalued relative to our peers. Okay.
Right.
And so, the neat part is people are able to buy these things for 20 cents on the dollar. And what's cool is the dollar could become $10. So all of a sudden it's like you're buying it at a discount, but the project could actually grow too. So there's several ways to win. And it's like, and then it's like commodity prices, are they likely to go up or down? So it's like there's so many sort of cycles coming together at once here. It really is exciting. I think from asymmetric risk perspective, the odds are in your favor, I think, and that's why we're all, as mining investors, super excited about where we're at right now.
Yeah, I saw something the other day that said humans are very good at making machines. And then once we make machines, we are very good at improving them. And that's what you're seeing in the technology stuff. But making machines requires material and energy, right?
Right.
And how these machines, what humans have done, and you look at the last 100 years, it's just been unbelievable of how much our standard of living has improved. It's because of the machines that free us up to do other stuff. And I don't have any idea how AI really works, but I'm going to tell you, some of the people are saying how it could double, triple human productivity. Maybe not. I don't know. But if it does, it's going to be a major step forward. But that's going to require a lot of energy. It's mind-boggling how much energy, how much copper and stuff is going to be needed for this AI build out, right? I mean, it's mind-boggling.
It truly is. It truly is mind-boggling, and that's why you're seeing, the fact that the president of the United States is taking such enormous steps to green light further development in the United States, investment in support, globally for resources that they can control, for U.S. Commercialization opportunities. I think it's just shows you how important it has become. People recognize that, we're going to, like, I think Codelco just announced yesterday that, and they're the world's largest copper producer, like, by a lot. And they announced that, they're struggling to keep their production at its current level. It's probably going to go down. And because they've been producing copper for 100 years, and they're just running on lower and lower grades, and not a lot of new discoveries. So I think, we're going to see ultimately, the supply and demand curve is going to basically push prices up, and you're going to see, some definite, surge of capital into the space, because there'll be rewards, big rewards.
Yeah, big. Well, and it's kind of like oil and gas too, is when these things get started, don't they mine the cheap stuff first. They mine the highest grades first, right?
Yeah, they're always, generally, I mean, they I would say, to the most part, they don't jeopardize the longevity of the project, but they obviously are trying to get the payback as quick as possible, so that they can, cycle their money, and so they won't structurally drill something out that's going to destroy the rest of the project, but they do definitely try and high grade it at first, and that's why our project's so attractive, is that it's extremely high grade, and so the payback in this thing is probably like a year, or something ridiculous. Like that's what will make it super attractive to develop. And that's why these projects, Steve Beresford says, they often get built in 5 years. Like a traditional mining deal might be 15 years, but these are so lucrative, you don't have to de-risk it as much, because the margins are there. So that's what makes it exciting to have had this type of package discovery, because, knowing full well it can become a mine in 5 years, and that's hard to say with a straight face.
Yeah. Oh, I think on one of your first slides, you had the picture of Robert Friedman, Robert McEwen, and Gina Reinhardt.
Yeah.
Okay. How, go over again, how are they involved, and what does that mean for?
So Robert Friedman runs Ivanhoe, and I would say arguably the most successful mining developer of the last 25 years. He's brought Ivanhoe, and he also obviously discovered Voisey's Bay. So he's had a legendary career of finding huge discoveries and getting well paid either to sell them, or now for Ivanhoe to develop them. So they've got an amazing company. Ivanhoe is one of my favorite, big cap mining stocks. That Kamoa-Kakula complex in the Congo was amazing, what they're doing there. So they've got a lot of really great things. They've got also a lot of great technology. Rob McEwen is a Hall of Famer, right? So he was Goldcorp's founder, and he's McEwen Mining is doing a really great project in Argentina, which is a super concept of how you can develop mines in a environmentally sensitive area, in an area where people have been distrusting of miners, but you can build a collective community. That he's done an amazing job of getting the environmental license to move forward, because he reimagined mining, and Rob's a genius. So Rob's been done 3 private placements with us, so it's been awesome. So and Gina is obviously Australia's richest woman, and then legendary mining investor, and she bought in the open market, you know, at the time when we were just making the Lion discovery, and she wanted to acquire a bigger percentage, and I gave her a number which I knew was a crazy number, but I said I can't sell it for cheaper because we got all these assays coming. We know it's going to be good, and I got to get that out and let the market sort of determine where it's at. And so I said you can probably get it cheaper in the market, and so she did. She went in the market, and you know, in that week the stock went from 40 cents to 70 cents, and she opened it up with a bid of the main shares. So that, you know, type of energy is fantastic, and we've been, you know, able to add others like that. And you know, again, the mining markets have sucked. Okay, let's be honest. They've been shitty markets for a long time. They're now started turning, so now you can actually, you know, have a shot at raising money. But for a long time, you really had to work hard to get access to capital. And so we had to work very hard to get, you know, these people in. And the reason why we spent the time with them is they actually had the capacity, and they weren't going to trade you for 10 cents or 20 cents. They're looking for 10 and 100 times their money. And those are the guys we wanted to talk to, because it takes time to build these things. And, you know, you get frustrating things like assays get delayed by 5 weeks. Well, to a retail guy, that's a lifetime, and he wants to kill me. But it's the reality is, hey, I can't control that. You know, we're doing everything we can, and it's not going to change it in the overall complexion of time what the value of the project is. And you know, but I understand the frustrations because I'm an investor too, and everyone just wants to get that news out there, and we want to as well. But I mean, it's now we've gone from being basically a mining investment only, where you're getting like only guys who really love mining and really understood it, and they have a number of great projects to choose from. So we're really happy they chose to invest at least a portion of their investment proceeds in us, and it gave us the capital to go at this thing in the right way, to do it scientifically, to do the best technology with the best people. And you know, we'll deliver the results that the ore body will give us. You know, at the end of the day, we can't make this up. It's either there or not there. But we like what we've seen. We like the land packages we've got. We believe we're going to deliver you know, an amazing project. So we're as excited as we ever were.
Well, and I think the fact that now you've got the funding, you're fully funded to continue this drilling program. I mean, that's a big plus. You don't have to go out and raise money to do that.
Yeah, that's always the best. You know, you never, and that's why, you know, when we raised the funds in February, we still had cash, but we raised it because it was, you know, we were being opportunistic and saying, hey, let's take the cash now when the market's sort of not focused on us, and then we can be good for 2 years. We don't need to raise money until the end of 26. You know, so we're going to do a lot of good work between now and then, and we think the market's coming back, and you know, both macro environment and then of course our own work that we're doing that will create even more value in the ground. And at some point, as we say, we believe we're going to cross from being like a, you know, high net worth, ultra high net worth retail stock to becoming more of a institutional stock. You mentioned Go Rosen, you know, you were following those guys, pretty bright, you know, mining investors. They're an example of an investor of ours, and they're really, you know, great people, and they've invested, and those are the types of people that we need to get to. We need to get to more institutional folks. I was doing a non-deal roadshow in New York about 3 weeks ago. Saw 10 different funds, all generalists. So not mining guys. In fact, we were pretty much the first mining guy they've seen in many years. And they all came back saying, hey, we want in. And I'm saying, well, you got to go in the market because, you know, we're not doing fundings down here. You know, but it was very positive to meet generalist investors who are now seeing, hey, we got to get some exposure. And they told me that they're in, you know, because these fund managers are telling me that their investors, guys that are giving them the capital investors, saying, hey, we want some exposure to critical minerals. We want some exposure to precious metals. I mean, people forget, you know, that, you know, the Lion Zone is 45% copper and 55% precious metals. So, you know, yeah, we're a critical mineral story, but we're also a precious metal story. You know, platinum and palladium is like 40%. Okay. We're the best platinum and palladium play on the planet. Okay. In terms of, exposure and upside, I think, and obviously got a healthy amount of gold and silver. So thankfully, those things are rising. It's creating value for us. Certainly gives us financing opportunities as we move forward. Gold streams, silver streams, those types of things. I mean, it's early days. We don't have to go there now, but that's the beauty of having this polymetallic project. Is it's so robust economically. That's what's going to make it super attractive. And because they're super rare, people don't know quite what to make of us, I think, but they're starting to get there, and I think they're starting to understand, wow, this could really be a big deal, so that's what we're out trying to do, conversations like this, and that's why we go to conferences like Beaver Creek, why we have 60 meetings out there next week to sort of do what we did today, take them through.
Are we I got some questions here about the New York Stock Exchange listing. Somebody says, do we meet the listing requirements? And I think there's another question, do you need to do a reverse split to get the stock up to $5 or whatever?
So the minimum price on the New York is $2 US.
$2.
So obviously we're not $2 US. That being said, we've got a lot of news coming, so we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But all other listing requirements have been met. So that part's going fine. So if we'll evaluate that when the actual final approval is received. The way our corporate charter is, we could in 2 weeks do a consolidation if we had to. I know that's a bad word for many people, but again, it may or may not be necessary. And I think again, we're not doing it because we must do it. We're doing it because, hey, it's a chance to get into the biggest market in the world, and to get, we think, like Dolly Varden did this just recently. They did a 4-for-1. Stock went down about 10 or 15%, and then immediately now it's up 40%. So above from when they entered. So I think people recognize that, and I think the U.S. market wants to get access to the best mineral stories, and we want to get access to the U.S. market. The OTC is fine, but there's a lot of people can't invest in the OTC, or they have trepidations about investing there. I get that. New York, globally. I mean, I was in Hong Kong about 6 months ago, gave a presentation there, and very well received. And they were just struggling. They don't like the OTC, can't even buy there. And they were really fond of the Canadian markets, so it's like, but they love New York, so it's like, so I think from our perspective, New York and to a lesser extent Australia are potentially markets. We're trying to create the lowest cost of capital for our shareholders, so we can advance this project, so we get the ultimate, either in bringing it in production or selling it, for our shareholders. That's why we do these things. So I think we're advancing on New York as a first step. I think that'll come to our conclusion sometime in probably October at this stage, and I think it'll be a great conclusion for the company.
Yeah, every company I've been in that has uplisted, it takes a little time, sometimes, but just a couple of weeks usually, and then it starts going up when the story gets out there. And I really don't understand why stocks sell off on a reverse split, because especially, I mean, if you're clearly doing the reverse split to get ready for an uplisting, why does it sell off? I don't know. People look at that stuff negatively. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the good news for us is that we're not raising capital, so it's not like we're having to. So if that should happen, fine, we'll eat through it, and those guys that sell off will ultimately be the losers, and the guys that buy it will be the winners. Because I think the reason why we're doing this is because we think it's, and we've shown, that's why we were able to get that investment. We're relatively undervalued by a big way, and we're doing a lot of things to create more value. So I think, again, you can never predict exactly what's going to happen in the stock market, but we're doing all the right things to create a lot of value for our shareholders, and we're going to continue to do that.
Okay, there's a couple questions about specific things. Are you impressed with how drilling is going in NISC East, and do the cores look interesting? I guess I do.
So I would say that NISC East, we've only drilled really one probe hole down there to use the borehole EM, and it's early days on NISC East. We think there's a lot more interesting possibilities there, and we'll probably get to it. But our higher value targets are between NISC and Lion and around Lion. And then also, the land packages we got from Lyft were, we had done a lot of regional work, and they had done a lot of good. They're very smart guys. The Lyft guys, they've done a lot of good geological work. So we were able to hit those running, and we started to drill on some of the primer targets there that we were good to go on. So we've got 5 rigs turning right now, and we'll have 6 after October. So let's just say there's no shortage of really good looking prospects for us, and we like what we're seeing.
Is weather an issue up there?
So I tell people we can't the goose, moose, and turkey.
Okay.
So
it's the hunting season. Not the
goose season is May, basically. Can't drill because our First Nations partners, that's when they traditionally hunt for goose. And then moose season is September 15th to October 15th. Again, same respect that tradition. And then turkey is basically, we shut down at Christmas time so people can, spend a little bit of time home with their family, sort of December, 18th or 17th or whatever to January 6th or so. And then other than that, so 40 weeks plus weeks of the year we're drilling, and it can be super cold. It can be minus 40. We're still drilling. And yeah, we figured out how to do all that. So it's about a 40-week drilling season. So, and of course, even when we're not drilling, the assays are being processed. We're doing the science. There's lots of brain work going on as well. So we're not, everyone's working max warp speed.
It reminds me, I had a supervisor that wanted a promotion. He asked if he could take a job listed up in North Dakota at Williston. It was like 6 months later in the middle of winter, it got down to minus 40. And I think the oil was freezing in his crankcase or something. And then he's like, "Can you get me out of here?"
Yeah. Luckily, they've figured that out drilling wise, how to manage that safely, which is good. We've had no safety. Safety is our number one concern, so our guys are looking after that. But yeah, it can get cold up there, and but there's methodologies to deal with, and the team has figured that out.
Well, what's going on at Tiger now? Tiger's to the northeast of Lion.
Yeah. So continuing to explore Tiger. We just finished poking some more holes there and using the borehole EM to try and map out the plates that the sulfides are there, and also deeper. So Tiger is still very much of interest to us. So we're still working on Tiger.
Okay, then there's a question that says, have you drilled any new untested areas in this program until today? And when can we expect results from the 7 new targets?
Yeah, so we'd expect probably some results probably after October 15th from some of those new targets. So we've drilled at least one of those, and we're anxiously waiting to see those assays. So it's interesting stuff for sure.
Okay, so to clarify, no assay results this week, just a small amount the next week. When should we expect to see the majority of the start of the summer drilling program?
Yeah, we're trying to get clarification on that today. And probably we'll update that in the press release next week. But I would think probably within a couple weeks of of next week we should have more results in. That's what it looks like from us. And then I think once that starts to come through, then the bottleneck should be it's still bottled up, but we jammed it in the top and it's coming out the bottom. So it should be every 3 or 4 weeks after that.
Okay, and then Bruce asked, when will you visit Houston again? And I'll tell you, we do EPG luncheons now again at Houston. In fact, we got one in a couple weeks, and then I've got 3 booked for November and December. October is wide open. But if you ever think about coming down here again, then we
Yeah,
work with Scott on those deals too.
yeah, Scott's going to hook us up with another. We have to get back there hopefully this fall winter
Okay.
for session. So we'd definitely love to get down there and discuss firsthand what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Yeah, one guy asked, when do you expect the first trading day on NYSE? Well, you're not close to that yet, are you?
Yeah, I would think it would be in October at this point.
Okay. I mean, if you had, so he says, can you give us an approximate date when the mine will be built and production starts? You're a long way from that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're a long way from that. I mean, I think we as fast as it would be 4 years, most likely 5 years. So that would be realistic, timeline, assuming everything goes well.
Okay, I have to laugh. It says, you mentioned the big guy. How did Joe Biden get involved?
Yeah,
Please tell me he's not.
that's funny. That's funny.
It said, I may have missed this point, but has management bought the stock in the open market in the last year? Or if so, please describe the amounts.
Yeah, I bought 100,000 shares, 10,000 shares a day for 10 days when the stock had fallen off to like $1 or $1.10 or something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't talk about it publicly. I said I was going to do it, and I did. So yeah.
Yeah, it's always good when the insiders are investing. Okay, well, I think that's it. Let's see. I think. Oh, there's one question here, and I didn't really understand this. It says, I've talked to mining investors, and they feel that you're in the middle of the Lassonde curve, Lassonde, Lassonde curve,
Lassonde.
which is post-discovery. Okay. Do you think this brings the story out to another level? And I think you can answer that.
Yeah, the Lassonde curve basically has a big inflection point on the exploration, then it goes down as you move to production, then it goes up even higher when you go to ultimately get producing. So I don't think we're in the middle of it. I still think we're on the leading edge of that. I think the exploration story has not peaked yet. I think it's still to come. That's me. That's my belief. I believe the exploration story is less than halfway there. Let me say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's it. Thank you for doing this. It's a very interesting project, that's for sure. And I do think I think we are going to see, as Garrigan Rosenzweig have said, there's going to be some day where it's really okay to invest in commodities again, and they're going to rotate. And the thing that I'm a little bit concerned about on the AI stocks is they're getting some pushback on this electricity demand because in some of these places, like I've heard in New Jersey and stuff, the electric bills have like doubled.
Yep.
And the grids are saying we can't have you on the grid. You're going to have to build your own power plants.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of copper using those power plants? Surely there is, right?
Oh yeah, huge,
Big time.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely going to be a massive need for copper, which is I mean it's funny. There's been some talk about recessions, right? And obviously copper is doctor economy, and so that's what's backed off the copper pricing a bit. But I think counterbalancing that is the fact that you've got this external once in a lifetime demand that's going to happen for the next number of years on AI, and the innovation, which is going to power through all this stuff, recessions. And it's just because at the end of the day, if you don't have the copper, you can't build it. You know what I mean? There's going to be.
I will tell you, the thing is, the AI data center guys, the electricity is a big deal for them. They can't really open until they get the electricity problem solved, but it's a tiny part of their investment.
Yeah.
So they will pay whatever it takes to get it.
Which is the same reason why I think uranium, as an example, is another interesting sort of commodity for the same reason, right? The power that it can generate, and the relative pricing of uranium is like infinitesimal compared to the cost of building the plants and all the other stuff.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll end it there. And yeah, if you're coming to Houston, let me know. And we got a
Okay.
lot of people that will come.
We'll look forward to seeing Breaking Bread again. Great to be on with you, Dan. Have a great day.
All right, thanks a lot.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.